Hey friends, what's up? How's it going? Ash here. Welcome back to Gents. Today we're taking a look at a clone fragrance from the house of Maison Alhambra, which is an offshoot of Lattafa perfumes. The name of the fragrance, none other than Toscano leather. Yes, you heard me correctly. Toscano leather. That sounds familiar to something. I can't quite put my finger on it. Yeah. So this one is a clone fragrance, of course, and we're going to be tackling everything in this video, from the presentation to the price point to the performance to the smell, and I'll let you know whether or not Toscano leather is a good, great, decent, or crappy clone of some random Tom Ford fragrance. I think that's what it is. Yeah, let's jump into it. So this one I will link in the description below in case you want to check it out. I got my bottle from fragrancebuy.ca and it runs you about $20 and some change depending on what the conversion rate is from Canadian dollars to US dollars at the time that you're checking it out. Because if the Canadian dollar is stronger against the US dollar, the price will go up basically on Fragrance Buy's website. And if it's weaker, it'll go down. But yeah, as of this video, $20 and some change. I think it was like $20.54 or something like that. So first off, why don't we go ahead and get this out of the way? Let's check out the presentation of Toscano leather. So here you have the front of the box. You have the name of the house, name of the fragrance, and your size and concentration all right there. 80 ml size, eau de parfum concentration. And yes, this is obviously done up to look like the Tom Ford private blend boxes, only this one is a bit fatter, essentially. Up top, you have the Maison Alhambra logo. On the back, you have your ingredient information and your sticker of authenticity. And then on the bottom, you have your batch code and barcode. And my bottle expires 10/20/27. And as you can also see on the bottom of the box, it says Lattafa perfumes, letting you know that Maison Alhambra is really just basically Lattafa. And here we have the bottle. Again, you can tell what they're doing here. It is a direct emulation of the Tom Ford private blend bottle style. You have on the front there, once again, the name of the fragrance, name of the house, and the concentration. You have the logo of the house on top of the cap. You have nothing on the sides, nothing on the back, and on the bottom, a simple sticker. As always, let's go ahead and waste a couple sprays here so you can check out the atomizer and see how it works. Not too shabby. So yeah, Toscano leather is a very, very obvious clone of Tuscan leather by Tom Ford. I mean, it's one of those deals where they don't even remotely try to hide what they're doing here, which some people don't like that, some people do. Some people would prefer that they go like the Detour Noir route, where it looks completely different as far as the presentation goes and the name and everything like that, and then it's a clone of Leighton. Other people would like this, where it just, you know, it is what it is. So I got Toscano leather as part of a haul from Fragrance Buy a few weeks ago. They've had a whole bunch of new clone fragrances pop up on that website here recently, and this is one of the ones that I got. Now, Tuscan leather is an interesting one because it came out back in 2007, so it's been around for a while, and it was hyped heavily for good reason back when it came out and for a number of years afterward. But here recently, it's been kind of replaced by ombre leather as far as Tom Ford leather scents go. Like, Tuscan leather to me is still fantastic. One of the best, one of the OG fragrances that really got me into Tom Ford. But a lot of people nowadays would rather wear ombre leather, and also ombre leather, a little bit more affordable, where it's no longer a private blend fragrance. So it is intriguing to see a Tuscan leather fragrance or a Tuscan leather clone fragrance come out here, but it does make sense because Tuscan leather, as I said before, is one of the OG hype beasts from Tom Ford in that private blend line. So I'm gonna get this out of the way right here, right now. I think that out of all the Maison Alhambra fragrances that I've smelled, which admittedly is not all of them, or probably not even close to all of them, but out of the ones I've smelled, I think Toscano leather gets the closest to the fragrance that it's cloning, that it's emulating. It is really, really freaking close off skin and in the air. Yeah, people are gonna be very hard pressed to tell the difference between the two, even if you're a Tuscan leather lover. Now, when you first spray them on side by side, if you spray Toscano leather over here, Tuscan leather over here, and you immediately go in and sniff them both, you can tell a bit of a difference, but it's really not pronounced. Toscano leather has maybe a little more of like a slight rubbery smell to it, like a slight undertone to it that Tuscan leather doesn't have, but it's really not that pronounced, the difference. And once you get past that initial opening, these two get very close. So much so that I sprayed them on. My wife was actually down here helping me organize some bottles, and I had her smell both. And I didn't even tell her what was going on. I was just like, I smell this, smell this. And I said, do you think the clone smells pretty close to the real thing? And I didn't tell her, which one was which. And she just looked at me and said, I thought I was just smelling the same thing. And that was maybe 5 minutes after I sprayed them on. They were, to her, indistinguishable. I had to go and say, no, this one is a clone. This one is the real thing. Smell them again. I had her smell blindfolded, and she said, oh, that's the Tom Ford. It wasn't. And I think that a lot of people would have issues telling these apart. Like, they get so close very quickly. They have the raspberry, they have the saffron, of course, the leather coming across the same way in both of them. Usually with clone fragrances, it's more the fragrance with the twist, right? So you can tell what it's cloning. Usually they get very close, but there is a noticeable difference. Like maybe one is sweeter than the other. Maybe one has less of an emphasis on some of the notes and more of an emphasis on others. But there's that difference a lot of times, I would say the majority of times, with clone fragrances where there's something between the two that's switched up. But this is basically just copying Tuscan Leather's homework and changing none of the answers. It's like they told Tuscan Leather, yeah, we'll change the answers, don't worry, we'll make sure that it's not obvious, and they lied. And they just went through, and everything Tuscan Leather does, they were like, yes, we're gonna do the exact same thing here, down to the bottle, the name, pretty much everything. So yeah, as far as differences goes, realistically, what you're going to pick up in the air, what other people are gonna pick up in the air, basically nothing. It's pretty much the same. So Toscano leather, as I said, that one right around $20.50, give or take a little bit. Tuscan leather, by comparison, at Joma Shop, because it's sold out right now on Fragrance Buy, but on Joma Shop is $225 for a 50 mil. So that means the 80 mil of Toscano leather is less than 10% the cost of a 50 mil of Tuscan leather. And when you break it down like that, it's rough out here for the Tom Ford when you compare them, and that's the price difference. Now the Tom Ford, of course, is going to be made with higher quality ingredients. We all know that, but this is one of those issues where you have a fragrance that smells so close to the Tom Ford, where you're getting 30 milliliters more, a full ounce more, for less than 10% the cost, and it's just, oof, rough, like I said, for the Tom Ford. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I would take this over the Tom Ford, because if you're gonna offer me both of them, I'm gonna take the Tom Ford. But for anybody who's on a budget, or anybody who wants something that smells like Tuscan leather but it's not going to cost that much, or anybody that maybe has Tuscan leather but doesn't want to run through their bottle, again, because of cost considerations, this stuff is going to get you basically there for so cheap. Now seasons, all that stuff, wearability, of course, exact same as Tuscan leather. So that's going to be fall and winter for most of you out there. More of an evening fragrance than a daytime fragrance. Nice wearability, nice versatility, just as much as Tuscan leather. And as far as performance goes, where you would think, well, Tuscan leather, it's going to have the edge in performance. Nah, not really. I wore these the same way. I did 3 sprays over here of Toscano leather, 3 sprays over here of Tuscan leather. Projection basically the same on both of them. Longevity the same on both of them. Tuscan leather known as being a strong fragrance. This is too. I'm not sure what they're doing over there at Lattafa HQ. I'm just imagining some big clone headquarters at Lattafa HQ. We gotta clone everything, take over the world. But yeah, they're just coming out with banger after banger as far as cheap alternatives to expensive scents. And this, like I said, as of right now, I would say is the best Maison Alhambra that I've smelled in terms of getting it close, like almost indistinguishable from what they're cloning. I have them both on right now, and I mean, they're in the far dry down, and it is just, they are the same. I know Armaf gets more hype when they come out with something, like with the new Club de Nuits, like people got really hype about those, and those are very solid too. Well, Lattafa is doing work. All right, that'll do it for me. Toscano leather, you want a cheap Tuscan leather, boom, here it is. If this would have come out like 10 years ago, man, people would have freaked. 10 years late. It's a decade late. All right, guys, that will do it for me. Thank you for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.